Hey there, party people! On August 10th, 2021, I posted a video about a manga that had just come out in English. It followed an overworked office worker who died from exhaustion while playing her favorite dating sim, Revolution. Next thing she knows, WataOshi wakes up as Ray Taylor, the game's protagonist. She is, of course, overjoyed at this prospect, now being able to pursue the love of her life. And it's not one of the three romanceable princes from the game, it's the game's antagonist.
Claire Francois, the spoiled, bossy rich girl who torments the heroine till her plans blow up in her face at the end. That's right, I'm in love with the Villainess!
Don't go back and watch that video, by the way. It's not good. But still, in that video, I had no idea that this series would inevitably become a very important piece of media for me. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why, going over the anime, the manga, and for the first time, I'm also going to be talking about the light novel. Generally, I don't read light novels. I'm one of those people that responds best to visuals and audio, so most of the time, text doesn't completely do it for me. There are exceptions, of course, but what it comes down to is that it can be tricky to test the waters with a light novel. But that has changed, because this series has official audiobooks. Not sponsored. Would like to be, but I'm not sponsored. But anyway, the first 2 volumes are out, which means that all 3 mediums cover the same amount of story. The 12 episodes of the anime and the first 5 volumes of the manga end at the same point. And with the light novel, that point is somewhere within Volume 2. Sadly, She's So Cheeky for a Commoner, the spin-off of the story told from Claire's perspective, is only on Volume 1 officially released, so that will not be factored in here. For this video, I will be breaking down the story into the 4 chapters as laid out in the light novel, starting with Transmigration to Dating Sim. Now, I already covered the lead-up in the opening, so let me just start this section by saying that the dub for the anime is amazing. All of the voice actors and actresses do an amazing job, but the voice of Ray Taylor, Hannah Alley, she is so clearly having the time of her life delivering a lot of these lines, and it brings the enjoyment to a whole new level.
So looks like I win.
But this chapter is really about establishing our 2 leads, Ray and Claire, as well as the primary side characters we will be seeing throughout the series, such as Ray's childhood friend Misha, the 3 princes, Rod, Thane, and Yu, and Claire's maid Lene, or Lean as the audiobook pronounces it for some reason. For Ray's part, she quickly establishes that she is head over heels in love with Claire.
I love you. Huh? I said I'm in love with you and I don't care who knows it!
In this world, she is a commoner, only attending the academy thanks to a meritocratic system set to uplift those with talent despite their lineage. Conversely, Claire is a noble from the Francois family. Her father Dole is Minister of Finance, essentially making the family the second most powerful after the royal family. As Revolution is her favorite game, Ray is aware of this, and despite that, she offers no pretenses in outrageously fawning over Claire in a wildly pushy fashion.
Harder.
I beg your pardon, commoner. If you have something you want to say to me, then speak quick.
I said if you're gonna step on me, then do it harder! Yeah! Come on, I can feel you hesitating. Show me some muscle. You've got no reason to hold back on me, so put your foot where your mouth is.
Though she does have her tactful moments, such as when she wins a favor from Claire. She just simply asks that Claire never give up no matter what, to swear that she won't. After all, she knows how the game ends, and she wants to do everything to avoid it. The light novel actually goes on to touch on why Ray acts the way she does from a more cultural standpoint, referencing how homosexual hosts tend to act. Overall, it's a farcical display of genuine emotion that Ray really just uses to defend herself. The scene in question that lets out this glimpse of introspection starts with this.
Ray, tell me, am I correct in assuming that you're what they call gay?
Now, while the light novel goes into the most detail on the topic, all three mediums do well to address the issue. The conversation about homosexuality and bigotry is handled very seriously, and this will not be the last time, though that will likely come up in a different video. In the conversation, Rei admits to understanding and knowing that Claire is straight, and is in love with Prince Thane, even going so far as to try and hook them up. Her love for Claire is such that she is happy so long as Claire is, and that's all that matters to her. To me, this statement is best delivered in the manga. Look at this page. Look at how her face is drawn. It's happy, but utterly vacant. From the close-up to her eyes and mouth, it is visually trying to get a point across. Her stare is blank, and her smile is fake. She is lying in this scene, but not to Misha, not to Lene, or even to Claire, but to herself. It is delivered upon later, but this right here is a masterstroke of visual storytelling and subtle foreshadowing. Then, in both the anime and the manga, we have an additional scene where Claire lashes out at homophobes who are mocking Rei. I enjoy this scene because it gives a clearer look into the type of person Claire is deep down, and it ultimately bleeds into the person she evolves into as the series progresses. When Claire hears Rei admit that she is gay, she at first is frightened, fearing assault, but Misha reprimands her in the fallacy of that logic, as Claire isn't going to assault Thane just because she's attracted to him, so it's hypocritical to think Rei would do that just because her orientation is different. Granted, in Rei's case, she is a bit on the pushy side in expressing her love, but she has never once shown that she would ever assault Claire. Claire, for her part, sees reason in this argument. She understands it. I don't think it is a long or strongly held belief for her, but it still shows that she is an entirely reasonable person. Sound arguments often shut her up and leave her without rebuttal, where all she can do is stew in it. Whereas in this case, she seems to almost immediately internalize it, which is why I believe the belief wasn't that strong to begin with. And while yes, her lashing out at the other girls could be mostly her venting her frustrations, it is still fully consistent with a character who, when she sees something that she believes is an injustice, will stand against those who are wrong to the best of her abilities. The only thing she really needs to learn to understand is what actual injustices are, as shown here. For this chapter overall, almost nothing truly progresses in terms of character or plot. It's all about laying the groundwork for these characters, and I think it's best exemplified in the "Are you what they call gay" scene, and how well it does that in each medium. But then, just before the next chapter, there's a slime attack that goes over how the magic system works, and it also shows that the game's story is definitely changing. While trapped by the slime, the player chooses a prince to call out to, but, of course, Rei doesn't want that, so she calls out to Claire. This works, and Claire is able to save the day, and Rei gets a baby slime familiar that she names Raylair. Side tangent, Raylair is amazing in all mediums, but is best in the anime and manga. It's not the light novel's fault. You can't expect to have the antics of a baby slime be narrated every second, but you sure as hell can draw and animate them. That aside, I think a more important difference is what happens after Rei gets Raylair. In all three media, Claire goes to thank Thane for his assistance in defeating the big slime monster, and in turn, Thane praises Claire. In the light novel, Thane pets Claire's hair, and Rei joins up with the class later, where Claire then expresses concern for her in her own Claire way. However, in the anime and manga, just as Thane is about to pet Claire's hair, Rei accidentally steps on a twig, and Claire immediately beelines to her and then goes on to express concern in her own Claire way. I do like this a bit better, as while I do want the slow burn, things like this go a much longer way to show Claire is becoming attached to Rei, even if she's nowhere near close to admitting that. After that, it's time for the second chapter, The Academy Nights. Overall, I think that this section pretty much very well lines up between all three mediums, save for a scene in the light novel where Rei and Claire get stuck in a storeroom, and Rei has to make a toilet with her magic because Claire has to use the restroom. That was really weird, and I am totally okay with them not adapting that because it didn't really do anything. Oh, and also in the manga, Rei and Claire end up exorcising a ghost thanks to the power of Yuri, so that's fun. This chapter's main focus is on the mock battle test to be accepted into the Academy Nights, which is basically the student council, and also a cross-dressing cafe, which is fan service, plot progression, and foreshadowing rolled all into one. There is such a wild amount of foreshadowing here, one of which you will never realize is foreshadowing until you reach a certain point in the story. You'll be like, what? That was supposed to be a hint? I thought that was just a thing that character would say. It's great. The plot progression comes from when Claire once again saves Rei in place of one of the princes, this time from the worst monster of all, a Karen, a royal one. But after that, Rei and Claire go on a festival date, where, at the end, Rei gifts Claire a pendant. But most importantly, Claire confronts Rei about her feelings towards her. She's done this before in the previous chapter, and I thought it best to cover them both at once since they cover the same ground, basically. Rei's distaste, and sometimes straight-up inability to be serious, bites her in these scenes. It's her biggest character flaw. Claire doesn't truly believe that Rei's feelings are genuine, even though in both of these scenes, Rei is actually being completely serious as opposed to her norm. Claire understands that she isn't the best person. She does have that level of introspection. So that combined with the fact that Rei is mostly teasing her and making it all seem like a joke makes it hard for her to comprehend Rei's feelings are true and genuine. And ultimately, she doesn't know how to handle that, especially since she is coming to like Rei, even if she herself hasn't realized or accepted that yet, shown most clearly by the fact that she wears the pendant from that point on underneath her clothes. But it is as Claire says, though in a different way. Rei is who Rei is, and Claire is who Claire is. They have worlds of different experiences, more than even Claire thinks she knows. From Rei's perspective, her actions make sense. She believes that she knows who Claire is, more than Claire knows herself probably. And because of that knowledge, Rei has resigned herself to the fact that she cannot be with Claire the way that she wants to be, especially in this feudalistic and homophobic society. And after being so run down in her previous life to the point where she died from exhaustion, who can blame her for acting the fool? So she tells herself that it's fine, so long as Claire is happy, even though she doesn't know Claire as well as she thinks she does either, and that will come later. The first foreshadowing that I mentioned earlier comes to fruition nearly immediately in the third chapter, the Commoner Movement. They did come up in the last chapter, but the full-blown discussion of class disparity and the end of aristocracy start here. Of course, in a game called Revolution, we all know where the plot is inevitably heading. The downtrodden will eventually rise up and take down the nobles. Even the third Prince Yu believes this to be true, and even debates Claire on the subject, coming back to her characteristic of rationality, and being unable to refute logical arguments even if they go against what she believes. However, the superiority of nobility over commoners is much more ingrained in her than mere homophobic ignorance, so a debate isn't enough to get her to change. Things reach a fever pitch when a noble, specifically Yu's attendant, ends up setting a commoner student on fire with magic. Obviously, the boy is seriously injured and could have died, but then the sentencing is only a week's time in prison. Of course, the entire commoner population is in an upheaval over this, and even Claire is appalled by such a light sentencing after seeing the injured boy for herself.
That boy can't stand up to walk, and yet his attacker's punishment is to stay at home?
But, of course, Ray knew this was all coming, and what would happen next. She knows that there is a mastermind behind the scenes, ready to do worse, and she confronts the vice commander of the Academy Knights, Lambert, who is the mastermind, as well as Lennay's brother and her lover. He did all of this because he wanted to protect his sister and be able to run away with her. Lennay even tries to stop Ray by threatening Claire's life in spite of her years of service and fondness for her. But Claire and Ray end up saving the day and stopping the master plan, though a strange masked man does get in the way. One that Ray doesn't recognize from the game. After this, Claire and Ray are offered a reward by the king for saving the academy and for Ray saving Thane's life after he had been poisoned by the masked man. They ask for one thing: for the lives of Lennay and Lambert's families to be spared. And with the help of Thane, they get their request and the family is instead banished. This chapter is largely one-to-one between the three mediums, with some differences of course, but none that I felt like were really important. From a character perspective, I would say that this chapter is where it really sets up Claire's trajectory. The first two chapters give us a foundation, and then this chapter gives us the building blocks, missing a single piece for us to start actually building though. And she also notes physical attraction to Ray for the first time. And for Lennay's goodbye and flashback, I think all three do it perfectly, building up both her and Claire's relationship and really why Claire turned out the way she did after losing her mother. But I do like the anime and manga more for better weaving it all together, whereas the light novel has the flashback as a bonus chapter. Still, either way, Claire calling out to Lennay, refusing to say goodbye because they will meet again, and Lennay saying that Claire will always be her master, it makes me cry every time. Hell, I cried writing this.
Don't say was. It's not over. Whatever happens, Miss Claire will always be my master.
Let's cheer up by looking at tiny Claire's face after she ate too many strawberries and got a bad case of the tummy hurt. That's better. And now we move on to chapter 4, Ray Gets Cucked. And I know that is not the actual name of the chapter, but that's what the chapter is. Claire's distant relative and first love, Princess Minaria, comes to the academy, and Claire is over the moon after having been depressed since Lennay was banished. In the game, Minaria is meant to assist the protagonist by distracting Claire so that she can make kissy faces with the prince. However, since Ray wants to make kissy faces with Claire, this is her worst nightmare. Made worse when, after finding out about Ray's feelings, Minaria openly flirts with Claire, and Claire is very receptive towards it. It's a bit ironic since, because of Ray, Claire is in the midst of her bisexual awakening, so it's likely her fault that she's being so receptive to the advancements of another woman. Granted, Claire is overly fond of Minaria regardless, so really who's to say? But after failing to get a true rise out of Ray, Minaria confronts her and her claims of only wanting Claire to be happy even if she can't be with her. Minaria plainly calls bullshit on this and says that Ray is a coward for not even trying to be the one that would make Claire the happiest in the world. And I have thoughts on this. I do think that there is merit in putting the happiness of the one you love over your own, as you can't make someone love you. And Ray is correct. From her perspective, Ray is straight and a noble. She could never be with a commoner girl. However, Minaria is also correct that Ray is lying to herself. She wants to be with Claire. She doesn't want to settle for anything less. And even outside of that, and of course Minaria doesn't know this part, Rei has enough knowledge to know that the commoner part doesn't matter, the homophobia part doesn't matter because of everything that's going to be happening. And yet she still doesn't try. She acts the fool. She ignores her truest wants and desires, all to protect herself more than anything, and that will only end badly. Now, in normal circumstances, I would say that pursuing someone that doesn't love you, and likely won't, will also end badly. I cannot stress enough. You cannot force someone to love you. At a certain point, you will have to give up and move on, as hard as that might be, especially if you do truly prioritize that person's happiness. But in Rei's case, she has yet to try to seriously pursue Claire, so I think the course of action that she takes in the story works perfectly fine. It is a heavily nuanced situation that there is no 100% correct answer. It's really just what the story wants to go with, and what the story wants to go with is great. I do love the push she gets from Minaria. Now, I should point out that Minaria confronts Rei twice, and I sort of lump them both together back there, but it is important to separate the two, as things do happen in between both. After the first confrontation, Rei accepts Minaria's challenge to a magical duel, and loses badly. Claire actually rushes to Rei's side in this moment, and in the manga and the light novel, shouts her name. In the anime, she just shouts commoner, which is really weird. I get what they're going for, and we will get to that in a minute, but it's just wildly unnatural. But props to Claire's voice actresses, Lindsay Shepard in English and Kari Nanami in Japanese, for still providing amazing deliveries in spite of that.
Commoner! Are you alright? No! Wake up! Commoner! Commoner! Open your eyes now! Commoner! Wake up!
Regardless, Minaria wins Claire in that duel, not that Claire really knows that at first. And Rei ends up quitting as Claire's maid, which I am now realizing I don't think I mentioned that she got herself hired as Claire's maid. Anyway, drama. In the anime, this scene is the first time Claire calls Rei by her name, thanking her for her service.
Please accept, Miss Taylor.
So again, I understand that the anime wanted to add a lot of weight by this being the first time it happens. But still, her shouting commoner after Rei blew up was just so unnatural. Now, the manga actually handles the in-between from Rei quitting and the second Minaria confrontation the best. In the light novel and the anime, there is hardly any actual time between the two moments, which feels especially fast in the anime. In the manga, there is an entire chapter going over how Rei and Claire are dealing with this, and how the rest of the characters react. There's even a part where Misha talks about how Rei used to be before the academy, and she was essentially an NPC, not really having any interests, because she is the protagonist of a dating sim, therefore doesn't have a true personality until a player gives her one. I really like that. The anime should have been 13 episodes, so that could have been added and maybe drawn out a bit. Make the audience really stew in the angst. But then, after the second Minaria confrontation, they have a duel using the Scales of Love, which is the real name of the chapter. The scales weigh based on the rarity of the item, so it's how far are you willing to go for the one you love? Minaria finds the rarest item in common knowledge, the Flower of Flora, which is a fancy way of saying the flower of plants. Meanwhile, Rei finds the rarest item in game knowledge, the Branch of Eternal Love, which turns into a tree, and I have no idea how they're getting the scales back. Now, it is here that Rei finally, truly and seriously confesses to Claire, promising to be the one to make her happy and asking to be her partner. Before Claire can properly respond, Minaria swoops in and reveals that she's a sadist, and has been after Rei the entire time, prompting Claire to...
Rei
mine, and I won't let you take her from me, do you understand?
Seriously? The anime has the best version of this. The pure manifestation of impulse that's being held in that leg. Rei has, of course, reached Nirvana. But after that whole mess, Minaria has to leave due to the first prince dying, foreshadowing the Nur Empire, the country that developed the poison that nearly killed Thane, is still on the move. At least she does in the light novel and the manga. The anime instead gets this.
Our wedding! Me, Claire Francois, a commoner's bride? No, I think I'd prefer to call Rei my bride. Wait.
And while that is a very adorable scene, it makes me believe that a season 2 isn't likely. And I would love to be wrong about that. Please let me be wrong about that. But as it stands of recording this, there is no season 2, and in the manga and the light novel, while it is clear that Claire does have feelings like that for Rei after the 4th chapter, she is not very forthcoming with them, and truly just enters her tsundere mode. It's amazing. But the anime, on the other hand, essentially ends with them being a couple, more or less. So minor retconning is in order if there is to be a second season. Honestly, in a perfect world, this would have been a 13-episode anime. They would have had an extended version of the manga's 3rd act breakup segment, and the anime itself would have ended with an adaptation of the bonus chapter, One Rainy Day from Volume 2, which really does feel like a post-Minaria moment to me more than anything else, and would have been a perfect to-be-continued moment, while also being satisfactory enough to exist, even if it didn't get a second season. But that's just me. So yeah, I'm sure you can tell I really like this series by how much I just spoke about it, and I mostly touched on just the biggest moments. And also, yeah, the way I talked about it, you might forget that this is actually a comedy series. But isn't that the best? When a comedy can seamlessly talk about and handle serious issues and moments without having them feel jarring? I'm in Love with the Villainess does that so well. Inori is a wonderfully talented writer, and it really gets more serious after this point, which I won't touch on now. Hopefully the anime gets that second season, and then I'll cover the next few chapters. Oh, but one thing that I do really like from the anime and manga is how they handle the princes. While I do of course understand that they are the furthest thing from the point of the story, I do really like how they feel more like supporting characters in the manga and in the anime as opposed to the light novel, where they do assist the plot and come up, but they also just kind of more feel like they're just there at the same time, you know? The anime and the manga makes them feel much more like part of a friend group, and I enjoy that. Regardless of the medium, though, I highly recommend that you check out this series. Yes, that is weird to say after I spoiled major plot points, but that's why I also left out a lot of little things. Things for you to experience. Hell, you may even experience the plot points I covered in a different way than I do. After all, you are a different person, and the experience of reading and watching something is wholly different than listening to some guy talk about it. I won't say that this story is something that will change the world or anything grand like that, but I do sincerely believe that this is something that absolutely can change the life of at least one person. It's the kind of story where if someone told me that it saved them, I would have no problem believing and understanding that. I don't know who it would be or what they could be potentially going through, but I do know that their voice is somewhere in here. And that's why I love this story. The idea of what it could be to someone. And maybe by the time I finish it, it could be that for me. But with that, I thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you next time in the void. Later.